Greatness is rarely born in comfort. It doesn't grow where everything is easy. It doesn't rise where expectations are low. More often, it begins in silence, in places where nobody is watching. On cracked streets, empty fields, and worn-out gyms where dreams are louder than the walls that contain them. Before the cameras arrive, before crowds scream, before history decides who deserves to be remembered, there was an athlete who learned early that control mattered more than speed. On the field, he didn't rush. He waited. He observed. While others chased the moment, he shaped it. One touch was enough to shift momentum. One decision could change everything. Somewhere else, in a dimly lit gym, another legend wrapped worn tape around tired hands. The smell of sweat filled the air. The floor carried the echoes of thousands of punches thrown before him. He didn't fight for fame. He fought because there was no other option. There was a footballer who played with joy even when pressure threatened to break him. When a stadium held its breath, he smiled. When the world expected perfection, he danced. To him, the game was freedom. In contrast, one fighter stepped into the ring without expression. No show, no noise, only focus. The bell didn't signal a fight, it signaled release. Everything else disappeared. Another athlete carried expectations heavier than any trophy. An entire nation watched his every move. Victories felt like shared celebrations. Losses felt like collective pain. Yet he kept going because stopping wasn't an option. In the ring, there was a champion who refused to stay down. Knocked down once, then again, and again. Each time, the count echoed louder. Each time, he stood up anyway. Not because it was easy, but because quitting was impossible. A footballer with extraordinary vision made the game slow down around him. He saw paths others couldn't imagine. Passes appeared from nowhere. Defenses collapsed without understanding how. One boxer dominated not with power, but with precision. Every punch had intent. Every movement had purpose. There was no waste. There was no panic. Another player defined himself through effort. From the first whistle to the last second, he never stopped running. When others faded, he pushed harder. When doubt appeared, he erased it with work. In boxing, one champion intimidated without speaking. Opponents felt the pressure long before the first punch landed. Confidence alone was enough to crack them. There was a footballer who lived for the biggest moments. Finals, derbies, last-minute chances. When pressure rose, so did he. One fighter welcomed pain like an old companion. Blood didn't slow him. Fatigue didn't stop him. He moved forward when logic said to retreat. A defender became legendary not for goals, but for denial. Timing, strength, fearlessness. Attackers hesitated before even trying. In the ring, discipline shaped greatness. Early mornings, lonely runs, endless repetition. While others rested, he trained. A football artist turned movement into poetry. One touch could silence a stadium. One goal could live forever. Another boxer adapted to everything. Different styles, different challenges, same outcome. A leader on the pitch spoke through action. When the team struggled, he stood taller. When belief faded, he restored it. In boxing, one fighter's story was redemption. Criticism followed him everywhere. Doubt never stopped knocking. He answered with victories. A striker lived for that moment of silence. The second after the net rippled. Before the roar exploded, that moment belonged only to him. One champion mastered defense so perfectly that opponents hit nothing but air. Frustration broke them long before exhaustion did. A footballer rose later than expected, proving that timing doesn't define destiny. Experience sharpened his instincts. Patience became power. In the ring, one chin became legendary. He absorbed punishment others couldn't survive, and kept walking forward. A playmaker elevated everyone around him. Teammates played better simply by sharing the field with him. One boxer fought not for money, but for legacy. Every bout added another chapter to a story larger than himself. A goalkeeper defied physics. Impossible saves became routine. Calm replaced chaos. In boxing, a champion unified expectations along with titles. Every victory silenced another critic. A football icon inspired generations not just to play, but to believe. to dream beyond circumstance. One fighter left the ring undefeated, leaving questions unanswered forever. Another athlete walked away changed, and changed the game forever. But legends are not defined by trophies alone. They are remembered for moments. Moments that made us stand up. Moments that made us cry. Moments that made us believe in something bigger than ourselves. They taught us that greatness isn't perfection. It's persistence. It's sacrifice. It's getting back up when the world expects you to stay down. Different sports, same fire, and even without their names, their legacy speaks louder than words. Greatness doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it begins quietly, on dusty streets, cracked pavements, empty fields, and small gyms where dreams are bigger than the walls that hold them. Before the lights, before the cheers, before history, one legend learned control before power. On the field, he didn't rush. He waited. One touch, one glance, one decision, and the entire game changed direction. Defenders never knew whether to step forward or retreat. By the time they chose, it was already too late. In a different world, another icon wrapped his hands in worn tape, stepping into the ring with nothing but belief. Every punch thrown was a statement. Every round survived was a promise to never go back to where he came from. There was a footballer who played with joy, even when the pressure felt unbearable. When the crowd held its breath, he smiled. When millions watched, he danced. To him, football was freedom. Across the ropes, one fighter brought silence into the arena. No trash talk, no emotion, just focus so sharp it felt dangerous. When the bell rang, chaos followed, but only for his opponent. Another athlete carried the weight of a nation. Wins felt like national holidays. Losses felt like shared grief. Yet he kept going, knowing that every step forward gave hope to millions watching from home. In the ring, there was someone who refused to stay down. Knocked down, doubted, dismissed, yet rising every time. His story wasn't about perfection. It was about resilience. A footballer with elegance made defenders look foolish. One touch, one feint, one finish, beauty in motion. Another fighter was feared before he even stepped into the ring. Opponents lost the fight mentally long before the first punch landed. Intimidation was his greatest weapon. A young prodigy burst onto the football world before adulthood. Fame came early. Criticism came faster. But so did greatness. In the ring, there was a technician, precise, patient, ruthless. He didn't waste punches. Every move had purpose. Every victory felt inevitable. One footballer never stopped running. Defense, attack, 90 minutes of effort. He played like every match was his last. A boxer with iron discipline trained when others rested. No shortcuts, no excuses. His body became a weapon sharpened by routine. A goal scorer lived for silence. That moment after the net rippled, when the stadium froze, before erupting. In contrast, one fighter loved chaos. Blood, pressure, pain. He thrived where others panicked. A football captain led by example, not words. When things fell apart, he stood taller. Leadership wasn't spoken, it was shown. One boxer carried heartbreak into the ring. Loss, failure, doubt, and turned it into dominance. A winger changed direction so fast defenders gave up chasing. Crowds leaned forward every time he touched the ball. Something magical always felt close. In boxing, there was a champion who adapted. Different opponents, different styles, same outcome. A footballer with humility let his boots do the talking. No drama, no ego, just excellence. One boxer fought not for fame, but legacy. Every bout added another chapter to a growing legend. A defender became iconic not for goals, but for stopping them. Timing, strength, fearlessness. Attackers dreaded facing him. Another fighter absorbed punishment and returned it tenfold. He didn't avoid pain. He embraced it. Some athletes aren't just remembered for trophies or titles. They are remembered for moments. Moments that stopped time. Moments that made millions hold their breath. This is the story of legends without saying their names. He grew up surrounded by noise, chaos, and struggle. On the pitch, he moved like the ball was tied to his feet. Defenders chased shadows. Crowds rose before the goal even came, because everyone knew it was coming. In a small gym with cracked walls and worn gloves, another legend was forged. Every punch carried hunger. Every round was a fight,